Everybody's really interested in what Dr. Ko has to say, and he can confirm or deny or refuse to confirm or deny that this is the case. Everyone's interested in what Dr. Ko has to say because many people believe he will be a presidential candidate in Taiwan for the 2024 elections. His views are of great interest to people in Taiwan and a great interest to people around the world. We welcome him here today. It's very gracious of you to stop at Columbia University during your visit to the United States, and we're proud to have you here today. Thank you for coming.
The third horse in Taiwan 在台湾目前主要就是国民两党嘛，那现在有一个第三势力兴起，那今天来这里就是跟大家讨论这个问题。
So of course, in Taiwan, we have the current two major parties will be the KMT and the DPP. So that stands for the Kuomintang and the Democratic Progressive Party. And now there is this rise of the third force, and that's where we are, and that's why we're here.
这个当然我要参选台湾的总统了，那美国好像不来也不行了。那来有两个目的啊，第一个是 to know and to be known， 就是说第一个因为美国是世界上最强的国家，那也是台湾很重要的盟友，那对台湾的国防安全相当重要，所以你一定要了解美国。不过从另外一方面，你知道是不是从美国反看台湾呢？就是说，到底在美国人的眼中，甚至是世界人的眼中，到底台湾是什么样的位置？它是一个岛屿，还是第一岛链的中枢，还是印太区域的一个重点？这个我们要晓得。
So I'm indeed running for the president for the next election, and there are two goals. And so the purpose for this particular trip twofold. Of course, we're here to know and to be known, and I think more specifically, I really want to think that it is inevitable for me to come to here as a presidential candidate, and that there are two things, especially that I want to accomplish during this trip. The first one is definitely to learn about how the United States is the strongest power in the world right now, and a very, very important allies of Taiwan. And for the purpose of national security, this is definitely a place that we need to pay close attention to. And the second reason that we're here is because that we also want to take a closer look on not only how we see the world, but how the world see us, Taiwan. So especially the perspective of the United States, how they see Taiwan and Taiwan issues. And I do think that whether or not they see us as an island or as the center of the first island chain, or whether or not this is the core strategic position of the Indo-Pacific realm. So those are the reason why I'm here.
有一点这里面二氧化碳浓度很高啊。你有没有解决的办法？再把窗户打开这样。
So it feels a little bit stuffy here.
不然冷气就要开到最大。
Or maybe turn on the AC.
这个二氧化碳浓度一定超过500 ppm.
Yeah, too much CO2 here.
OK， 另外一个是 to be known 我相信99.99% 的美国人不晓得台湾有国民党或民进党，更不要说是有第三势力。所以今天来这里还有一个目的，就是说至少把柯文哲或者是台湾的第三势力介绍给美国人。
In terms of to be known, I do think that just in general, here in the United States, probably 99% of people, they don't even know about the two major parties in Taiwan, let alone the third force currently going on in Taiwan. So that will be one of our missions as well, to introduce not only the party, but also me as a presidential candidate.
好，今天的大概四个地方来讲，第一个是台湾的政党现况了哈。还有一个我们来说明一下台湾在过去30年，你知道，对于这个政治的进程我个人的一个 interpretation 还有一个是到底我想要改变台湾的什么东西台湾的政治文化，再就是来说说台湾民众党的中心思想跟基本主张，
So these are the 4 areas I want to pay closer attention to. The first one is the political parties in Taiwan and its current state. And for me, from my own personal viewpoints and the Taiwan's political progress and development in the past 30 years, and also how I can transform the Taiwan's political culture and what I have been doing and what I have done so far. And the last one will be the TPP's core values and principles.
好，那台湾有2个主要政党嘛，DPP 跟 KMT 那从2000年以后，台湾有另外所谓代表第三势力的4个政党，就是亲民党、时代力量、新党跟台联。那我们是第5个出现的。
So, as I mentioned before, the 2 major parties would be the DPP and the KMT. And since year 2000, we have the 4 third force parties, that they are the People First Party, the New Power Party, the New Party, and also the Taiwan Solidarity Union. And the TPP is the 5th among the third force.
在参选2024的总统，你知道哈？作为台湾民众党的主席，你知道，我们必须回答2个问题。第一条，既然你知道哈，已经有国民党跟民进党，那请问为什么需要台湾民众党？这第一条。第二条，那前面已经有4个被泡沫化了，你为什么不是第5个会被泡沫化的？所以就说。我们跟其他2个主要政党有什么不一样？再来就是说，那你怎么知道你可以 survive？
So I think I can move forward since I am going to run for the 2024 presidential election and as the chairperson of the Taiwan People's Party, there are 2 major and fundamental questions that I must ask myself and also answer. The first one will be why there's a need for another party for the third force. And the second one will be if the previous 4 have since now evaporated as a third force party, why do you think that the TPP can survive in this particular current political environment?
那再回答第1个问题就是说，台湾民众党跟国民党、民进党有什么不一样？不如先问第1个问题，你觉得国民党跟民进党有什么不一样？这第1条。对我来讲，你看，他们除了统独的意识形态以外，其他有什么地方不一样？绑条啊卡了，就绑庄脚了贪污腐败了那个绑就是差不多都一模一样。所以这也是为什么你知道？最近台湾你知道，所谓国民党在提出2个口号，你知道下降民进党的汇率联盟，你知道，我都不同意。为什么？下降民进党是换国民党贪污吗？然后你这个汇率联盟，那你是让整个政府把属于绿色那边全部摒除掉吗？所以讲到最后还是一个，其实我们刚才讲说蓝绿除了统独意识形态以外有什么不一样？但是就算是意识形态，你知道吗？统独在台湾是个假议题，为什么？在现阶段，台湾不可能统也不可能独立所以你们这2个政党每天在吵什么，我是不能理解。
So in terms of answering the first questions, what's the difference between TPP and the 2 major parties, KMT and DPP? For me, even more important to ask the questions, what's the difference between these 2 major parties, other than the fact that they have very diverse, very different political ideologies. One is pro-independence, one is pro-unification. But other than that, they share a lot in common in terms of the corruptions, in terms of a lot of unethical political campaign behaviors. So to me, it is really thinking about that to pitch these 2 and using along the ideological line, to me, is really a red herring fallacy. It's not the issues that we are dealing with, and I don't know why these 2 parties are arguing about these issues day in and day out.
第一，这个有一个问题我们要相信统计数字。目前在台湾主张独立的7%，主张统一的3%，其他90% 的是主张维持现状。不管是永远维持现状， 还是维持现状以后再统一，还是维持现状以后再独立 ？Anyway, at this moment, 90% 的是主张维持现状。那如果90% 的都主张维持现状，那么我们为什么不处理我们现在的问题，然后再处理那个也许几十年后的统独的问题？
And I want to add something about the two ideas proposed by the KMT. One is ditching the DDP, and also the other one is a non-grain correlation. Personally, I do not agree with either one of them. And just to bring in some statistics to the discussions, that currently, based on the most current poll, 77% of the Taiwan people support independence, 3% support unification. 90% of them support the idea of maintaining status quo. So if that's indeed the case, why are we struggling against or bickering about the issues that we might have to eventually resolve decades from now? So the 90% status quo, including maintaining status quo now and resolve the issues, whether or not it's unification, whether or not it's independence in the future. But right now, 90% is 90%. That is the consensus.
就算对那7% 的主張獨立或3% 的主張統一的人，在現階段也不可能。在現階段，台灣有可能跟大陸統一嗎？不可能。台灣有可能去搞獨立嗎？也不可能。那所以倒是講哦 ，status quo， 你知道嗎？所謂的維持現狀。这不要说是唯一的选择，事实上这是不得已的选择。
So looking closely to the 1%, I'm sorry, to the 7% independence and 3% unification, we really need to ask ourselves the questions if it's even possible to actually for unification with China at this point, at this juncture. And similarly, is it even possible to talk about independence at this particular juncture? So for us to maintain status quo, it is our only choice at this point.
那也有人在讲说，也许我们有为30年后的世界在努力，就统独问题各位30年后统独问题去主张，你知道？那如果这样的话，就说那你们把30年后的选票投给国民党跟民进党，把你现在的选票投给台湾民众党。
So we really want to take a long-term view on the world situations and thinking about whether or not the issues between across Taiwan Straits will be unification or independence 30 years from now. Then maybe we should ask people 30 years from now to vote, to give their vote for the KMT and the DPP, but give their vote now to TPP.
Forward. No, back. 那所以简单的讲，其实台湾民众党的出现，就是说我们跟国民党、民进党，它最重要是一个政治价值的不同。我觉得我们要处理的是现在的问题。那现在的问题，这个是要用一个比较企业的精神来处理的，所以我们不太喜欢用过去的国民两党那一种统治的方式。第一点，第二点刚才在讲说，台湾民众党跟其他4个第三势力有什么不一样？我想有个很重要的不同点是，其他4个党都是成立那一天民调最高，然后一路下降。只有台湾民众党是倒过来，它是慢慢在上升。所以在过去3年半当中，它在台湾的制度都是慢慢上升。我觉得这个很重要的理由是，我们比较认真的，就是我们从一个新兴的政党，你知道，然后慢慢上去。那其他4个都是从旧有政党 split off 出来的，然后它就出来以后，然后慢慢掉下去。所以这是有2个，这是一个很大的不同。所以到现在为止，你知道没有任何迹象，你知道台湾民众党会像其他4个党一样泡沫化。
So I think what make TPP stand out in this current political context is because we have very, very different political values as a party. And we focus very much on the here and now and the issues that we can deal with here and now. And we also bring enterprise spirits and culture into public service. And this is the areas that really set us apart from the other four third force parties that all of them actually have the highest support while when they were first established, and then the support dwindled later after. It's not the same for the TPP party. Our party actually started in 2019, and our support has been increasingly growing, and for the past 3.5 years. So I do think that that is the results of our hard work, and that we take what we do very seriously, and we do it with rigor and sincerity.
所以刚才2个很重要的问题啊，台湾民众党跟国民党、民进党有什么不一样？就是说我们没有现在这种统独的意识形态，这第一点。第二点，台湾民众党到现在为止没有任何迹象，它会跟以前的4个政党一样泡沫化。所以我们要先回答这2个问题。
And to add what I just said about the fact that the other 4 third force parties, that they are evaporated because they came out of as a spin-off of the traditional or conventional ideological struggles between the unification and the independence. And we have a very, very different viewpoint on this. We are not limited or blackmailed by the struggles or the discussions in terms of the independence and the unification issues.
我们现在来讨论台湾在过去几十年间政治上的进程，你知道，我把它分成3个阶段。第一个阶段是台湾的民主化，从1949年国民党败退到台湾来我们台湾是党国，就说它党国体制的第一点。那当时就出现了一个叫党外运动，就是要求台湾的民主化。那我们可以看看这个在这过程当中，你知道当然1986年民进党成立了然后到1987年废除戒严了那取消这个报禁跟党禁。到1996年台湾第一次普选总统。我觉得到1996年台湾普选总统算是整个台湾民主化完成了。
So I would like to take a closer look at the political progress and development in Taiwan for the past decades, starting with the retreat of the KMT party after the Civil War in 1949. And then, as you can see that 1986, the DPP, which is the Democratic Progressive Party, was founded. And then in 1987, Taiwan lifted martial law and also lifted freedom of press and publications, lifted the bans on new parties. And then 1996, we have the first direct election of our president. And before that, it was when KMT first came to Taiwan after 1949, that they ruled the island with the party state system. And then, of course, at the same time, you also have the outside movements to initiate and galvanize the entire democratization process in Taiwan. And I do see the juncture and the turning point, 1996, as the completion of our first stage of democratization in Taiwan.
在台湾民主化的过程当中有一个东西不知不觉慢慢出现，就是说从我是中国人变成我是台湾人。一开始我们叫大中华统一理论可是在过程当中奇怪，这台湾我是台湾人的观念慢慢出来，很多人在问说这到底我是台湾人，你要知道我们在就是大概1980年的时候在台湾做民调，大概超过80几%的会写我是，就说我是中国人，我是台湾人，我是中国人也是台湾人。Anyway， 这些选项里面，我是中国人，这是选项最高的。可是慢慢一直到2016，你知道就是民进党在总统大选跟立法院，就是说在行政立法同时赢得选举，到那个时候我是台湾人 这已经超过90%的。所以从我是中国一直变成我是台湾人，这到底是怎么发生的？这是一个问题啊。
So as we progress forward as a country, that there was this greater China, I am Chinese sensibility in the beginning. And then when we reached the 2016, the DPP party completely controlled and dominated administrative and legislative realm, we have seen dramatic transformation of how people react to the questions such as, are you Chinese? Are you Taiwanese? Are you at once Taiwanese and Chinese? And so to these questions, during the beginning of the 1980s, 80% of the people in Taiwan choose to identify themselves as Chinese, more than 80%. And then fast forward to 2016, after DPP completely dominated the legislative and the administrative branch, you ask the exact same questions, and in 2016, people answered the question with a resounding, I am Taiwanese. More than 90% of the people selected that particular option. So we really need to seriously look into what happened in these years for the entire island to change their sense of identity from Chinese to Taiwanese.
这件事情哦，说来有一点讽刺，你看 ，ironic。我认为是哦，两岸交流以后，反而促成我是台湾人这个意识抬头。我还记得我小时候，你知道，我们念书，你知道，书上都说哦，会讲长江黄河，你知道，所以他当时都认为我是中国人。可是有一天两岸交流的时候，他真的跟那些大陆接触的时候，他突然发现奇怪，为什么跟他不一样？所以后来发现，你知道哦，我是台湾人这个意识形态，是反而是因为台湾跟在1987年哦开放交流以后反而出现的。
So one of the reasons that this particular dramatic change and shift in identities, I think ironically has something to do with the exchange that we opened up across Taiwan Strait in 1987. So the permission of relatives to visit Taiwan and also vice versa. And I do think that when you have people in Taiwan visit China and then to somehow traced everything they learned from textbook in terms of the Yangtze River, the Yellow Rivers, and suddenly they realized that they are very, very different from the people in China. And I think that sort of contribute to the fact that because of this recognition, the rise of the Taiwan consciousness as a result, and then contribute to this shift of identification.
另外问题是什么？在一开始的党国体制，你知道，那些所谓的统治阶层，主要是从中国大陆来，他们代表是中国。所以当他在党外运动开始在推翻这个时候，他当然总不会去继承他要攻击的对象，所以他选择的就是会台湾本土化。所以我这有两个原因，一个是在推翻党国体制的过程当中，原来的统治阶级是中国扶好的。然后在跟大陆交往当中，突然让很多台湾人发现奇怪，为什么跟大陆不一样？有些种种原因，你知道，才出现了台湾的主体性。
So the other reason that I think that contribute to this is because in the beginning of the party state system, those ruling elites, they are equated with mainland China, with this Chinese identity. And I do think that when you have the outside democratic movements to trying to subvert and trying to overturn the existing party state system, of course, they will not identify with the people that they want to destroy the most. So on that level, that also contribute to the shift and the change in attitude in terms of identification and the Taiwan consciousness.
或是这样的哦，我们这里是写台湾自主，我们并不是写台湾独立，因为这个台湾主体性虽然出现，你知道，但是再走下去哦，那个独，你知道哦，台湾独立，坦白讲哦，因为中美对抗的局势，还有整个国际关系啊，它暂时是走不过去，所以它只是出现台湾主体性，但是并在现阶段 看起来是没有办法再继续往台湾独立的这条方向很顺利的走下去，所以暂时被停在这个阶段。
And in terms of the language that we're using here, we're talking about Taiwan's subjectivity. We're talking about a self-governed China. I'm sorry, self-governed Taiwan. It is very intentional because I don't believe that at this juncture, in terms of the current international relations between China and the United States, independence is a possibility. And this is as far as we can go in terms of our democratization process, in terms of our democratic development, and the establishment and also the emergence of Taiwan consciousness and Taiwan subjectivity is what we can do, the best that we can do at this point.
那事实上，在2014年的太阳花运动，你知道，它是一个台湾年轻人突然崛起。那我也认为了，从在台湾主体性过程当中，后来台湾就陷入了统独意识形态的争执，然后一直在那泥道里面在打转，你知道。所以事实上，2014年你知道这个我第一次选台北市长的时候，我的口号就是推倒蓝绿的高墙。也就是说，台湾人开始在想说，我们是不是不要继续在这种统独的意识形态里面去打转，而且可以开始提出你的国家治理，就说 national governance。
So in terms of the 2014, that's also marked a very important juncture of Taiwan's democratic development. This is the years that the event or the incidents of the Sunflower student movement. I do think that really galvanized the younger generation to have a political awakening. And I think that is also when I was running as a mayor of Taipei for the first time, one of my slogan is to tear down the walls of KMT and DPP. Specifically speaking, is the struggles or the constant bickering around the issues of independence and unification. And this is something that I do not want to dwell on, and I want to really find a different way out.
这是2014年我宣布当台北市长的一张照片。2014年2月17号，在蒋渭水纪念公园这个宣布参选台北市长的记者会。其实上面写的字在10年后的今天看还是一样，你知道吗？改变台湾从首都开始，改变台北从文化开始，这是场以文化为主体的社会运动。对我来讲，你知道不管是选举或是执政，它是一个改变政治文化的社会运动，这是一种新的思维。
So as you can see here, this is the pictures that taken on the day of my first official campaign gathering, and in front of the Jiang Weishui Memorial Square. And as you can see on the right, that is actually my campaign slogan. And I do think that it is still very relevant today. It reads, to change Taiwan, that's change Taiwan by changing Taipei. That's change Taipei by changing our culture. This is a social movement aiming to, this is a cultural-centered social movement. And I do think that this is a pretty new idea, is to think about, it is about the election itself, and the governance itself is indeed a social movement. And I'm gathering all the support I can to help me make this particular social movement into a reality.
以前台湾的选举长这个样子。
This is what the election was like before in Taiwan.
我的选举都没有这些东西，所以它是一个新的文化的出现。我们没有跟过去的那一套一样。
My election and nothing like this, and we really want to create a new election campaign, political culture into Taiwan.
所以2014年我当时的 slogan 是 choice，就是你要选旧的那个蓝绿 意识形态的恶斗，还是我们开始选一个新的政治文化？那很幸运的哦，在4年后的 re-election 当中，连任选举当中，哦，我们就是口号是 keep it real, keep it possible，就是说，既然我们选择了一个新的政治，而且它也存活4年了，是不是我们可以照这个方向继续走下去？所以这是我当台北市长8年哦，是让我带来的台湾是一个新的政治文化。
So here you can see that in 2014, my first mayoral election, my slogan is choice. The choice to not being limited by the false choices or the false dilemma of either unification or independence between the blue and the red, that we can make a choice to find something new, to have a different political culture for Taiwan. And the 2018 on the right, that was my campaign slogan for my second re-election. And it is keep it real, keep it possible. It means that since we have made that choice 4 years ago, and we need to stay on this particular course of action, stay in a very, very steadfast way, and then we can continue what we have been doing for the past 4 years.
那我们在台北市政府很多文化，第一个哦，财政纪律，你知道吗？我大概是台湾唯一的政府当中有还债的，其他每一个来都是负债的。我当8年台北市长还了570亿，可是郑文灿在同样8年在桃园市长，他增加了1200亿。所以这种财政纪律是一种文化，就是说他不会把这个国家，我们会把用国家的钱来当作用自己的钱，你知道，会比较会讲究这种财政纪律。再来是呢 ，citizen participation 哦，我们常常用这种，比方说参与式预算 （participatory budgeting），就是说老百姓可以提案，那如果被政府采用，我们可以拨预算给他。所以我认为，你知道，政治不应当是每4年1次投票。那中间人民跟政府之间完全没有 interaction， 这是不对的。所以我们是让市民可以来参与这个政治。那我们也是，比方说我们在台北市有这种很多委员会呢，是透过这一种上网征选，你知道吗？让他们可以很多这种不相关的人可以进入市政府来。所以让政治不再只是就是那几个公务员在处理，而是可以让更多的市民来参加。最后一点呢，为什么我在任内的时候，台北市贪污很少？一个很大的理由是透明。我们几乎所有重大工程，你知道那些预算啊什么，全部都上网公开。我发现全部公开以后，反正没有这种贪污的问题。
So for me, the new cultures that I'm bringing as a mayor for the city of Taipei, the number one is fiscal discipline. I do think that I'm probably one of the only municipal or local governments that actually pay off the debts rather than accumulating even more debt. During my tenure, I paid back 57 billion Taiwan dollars. In comparison, if you look at the local government or Taoyuan under the leadership of Chen Wen-tan, during his tenure, he already accumulated 120 billion Taiwan dollars. So I do think that for all politicians that or people who are in the position of power and governance, we definitely need to use the public's money as they are your own, and to really adhere to fiscal discipline. And the second one here is the citizen participation that I bring into the political culture in Taiwan. And during my tenure, I do not believe that the only time the citizens can participate in elections will be during the actual elections. I think that they should have a voice, and they should be able to interact with the government that they select or they elect. And so I implemented participatory budgeting, so people and citizens can actually propose their own proposal. If they're selected, then the government will then help fund that particular project. And I also created different committees, and it's all online, and people can sign up to join different committees, different meetings, hearings, and so that they are part of the governance of the local government as well. So I do think that that is another way of bringing this type of new culture into Taipei City. In terms of transparencies that I through the online platform, everything, every project, every budgetary plans and decisions have been somehow uploaded for everyone to see, for everyone to review, for everyone to give comments and feedback. So that sense of transparency is one of the major ways that for us to really create a government that can be trusted and avoid any type and free from any type of corruption.
事实上，我们是先有柯文哲这个人，然后后来有一个台北市政府的文化，那再有当市长5年多以后，我们才成立政党。
So of course, first you have me, Wen-je first, and then I brought my vision to the municipality of the Taipei city government, and that particular culture then become my legacy. And then 2019 funded the TPP.
其实台湾民众党台湾 People Party， 台湾已经表示了它的主体嘛。然后我一直认为人民才是政治的主体，而不是意识形态。但 Party 就是一群人。我每次说要走得快一个人走，要走得远要一群人走。所以是让台湾 People Party 这3个字，你知道这几个字已经把我们这个党的精神写在里面。
So the values and the spirit of the party very much represented by the 3 characters or 3 words that we use in our name. Taiwan, as I mentioned before, this concept of subjectivity, Taiwan consciousness. People should be the core and the only base of any type of political decisions and political policies. So it's all based on the people we serve. And party, as I can quote an African proverb, that to go fast, you go alone. To go far, you go together. And I think that these 3 words perfectly captures the values and the essence of Taiwan People's Party.
你要知道国民党的全名叫中国国民党，它里面就把中国都已经写在上面。那民进党的全名是民主进步党，里面并没有台湾，所以国民党只有中国，民进党没有台湾。
So if you look at the names of the 2 major parties, the KMT has the word Chinese in it. And if you look at the name of the DPP, it doesn't have the word Taiwan in it. So it is a party have a close tie with China, and the other one is a party without Taiwan.
我一直认为说我虽然说台湾的我们说那个 vision 嘛 ，be a country with universal value， 我一直认为的没有所谓的什么叫台湾价值，普世价值在台湾的实现就是台湾价值，因为价值应该是都相同，这第一点。所以以前那个蔡英文总统在问我说，他说我希望我可以坚持台湾价值，我反问他说，那你的台湾价值是什么？很遗憾的，到现在为止他都没有回答这个问题。
So to me, part of the vision that is be a country with universal values, and to me, I really don't think that there is such a thing that is so different in terms of Taiwan values. For me, to be able to actualize universal values in Taiwan is indeed the Taiwan values. And I remember one time the current president Tsai Ing-wen asked me that I hope, she said to me that I hope that you will really keep your Taiwan values. And I asked her back that, so how do you define Taiwan values? And at this point, she hasn't answered me back. So I do think that for me, these values, universal values, are very much something that we all share as world citizens, and to make sure that they are actualized in Taiwan. It is indeed our Taiwan values as a party.
这个我一直认为政治的主体是人民的，然后追求人民的最大幸福才是政治的中心思想。所以 greatest happiness and joy for all in Taiwan。我一直认为的意识形态不是政治要服务的目标。
So we do believe that people are at the core of all we do as a political party. It should not be the ideological struggles and ideological issues that have no relevance for the here and now. And that is indeed the reason why we want to ensure the greatest happiness and joy for all in Taiwan.
我在当台北市长之前，已经当了30年的外科医生了，所以很多外科医生的特色，你知道也影响我的执政的作为。我们强调理性 ，rational， 就是不会用口号治国。我们很务实的，就是说对外科医生来讲，我们常常在嘲笑内科医生说：“啊，你讲那么多，病人死掉有什么用？”另外一个是我们还是，我觉得医学还是一个讲究 science 的一个学科，所以我们是一种以外科医生就是解决问题的态度来从政，来处理政治上面的问题。
So I was a surgeon for 30 years, and I do think that I'm very much informed by the problem-solving priorities as a surgeon, and that's how I rule and how I govern. These are the characteristics that I bring to Taiwan political culture. First one is rational. We are not ruling or governing anything based on slogans. We are taking on the rational approach to governance. And the second one is pragmatics. And as a surgeon, that you need to really be pragmatic and thinking about how to solve this and to save this particular patient in front of you. Just by talking about it and theorizing everything like most physicians do, and then ended up with a dead patient, it's not solving any problem. And also, as part of my experience as a surgeon in the past, scientific approach is very much at the core of my how I govern and how I lead.
所以重点就是这样的我们的目标是台湾的整体利益还有人民的最大福祉。那我们非常强调正直诚信。对外科医生来讲如果没有办法正直诚信两个人没有办法合作开刀因为只有彼此互信，你知道，那才有办法开刀可是我发现，在台湾的政治，你知道互信是很少在政治圈里面被发现的。
So these are our core values: the overall interests of Taiwan, the greatest well-being of our people, and the third one is about integrity and honesty. This is one of the key elements for any surgeons to have any type of relationship with the patients, and for them to trust you enough with their lives and with the surgeries, and that takes integrity and honesty. And this is something that you don't see quite a lot in the conventional political realm.
所以我们在这一次要选总统的时候，我们的口号大概就在上面。第一条就是说，我们是 inclusive society， 就是说共同社会。我们不太赞成在这个国家里面要继续有蓝绿的分裂，这第一点。第二点，我们开始强调国家治理，就是说我们要以理性务实的方式去处理国家的问题。然后我们主张在国内应该是联合政府，因为现在常常这样。民进党执政，政府里面一定不会有国民党的。国民党执政一定把民进党全部排除出去。可是我在8年台北市长的经验，你知道，在我的政府里面是可以有国民党，也可以有民进党。所以这个我一直认为只有采用联合政府，才可以重新让台湾成一个团结的国家，而不是分裂的国家。在过去30年，台湾一直是分裂的国家。那再是这样呢？对于这个两岸问题我们还是希望说，台湾要统要独，那是以后的事。在现阶段，就是台湾人可以决定自己的事务，就是台湾自主。当然在台湾自主的条件之下，我们也是希望尽量减少台海战争的危险的。所以，我们今天我们为了2024年的选举，你知道吗？主要的口号已经 在这个幻灯片里面显示的。
So for our 2024 presidential campaign, these are our major slogans and our principles to build and then to establish an inclusive society. We are not going to somehow continue to be involved, engage in the kind of divisive struggles between the blue and the red, unification and independence. And for national governance, as I mentioned before, it's going to use the approach of being pragmatic and being rational and being scientific for our governance. For the internal affairs, I do think that it is important to have coalition governments, but because what has been going on within the Taiwan politics is that if you have KMT become the ruling party, then they will do everything they can to eliminate their opponents, which is the DDP, and vice versa. When DPP is the ruling party, then they will somehow eliminate as much as they can of the KMT influence. So I do think that in order for us to work well together, it is to create a coalition government, and then we have a united Taiwan as a result. And for external affairs, I do think that at this juncture, the most we can do, the only choice for us is to have a self-determination and self-governed Taiwan. And of course, we want to do everything we can to maintain the peace across Taiwan Strait so that we can prosper peacefully.
事实上，这几个主张也凸显了台湾民众党跟国民党与民进党的不同在这上面。
So also by looking at these slogans, you can see how the TPP party is very different from the two major parties, KMT and DPP.
所以最后来讲，我们说 TPP 嘛，Taiwan People Party，and we hope 我们是一个 Taiwan is pragmatic and professional，and our goal is peace and prosperity。PEP。
So since our name is TPP, I am going to reiterate the PP can mean more than just People's Party. It also means we are bringing pragmatism and then professionalism into political culture. We are also pursuing peace and prosperity in Taiwan.
所以这就是最后，这剩下就是看有没有什么 Q&A， 大家来讨论一下。
So now I guess it's Q&A. Thank you.
A microphone, one of the two. Okay, so we're going to have a Q&A session. I know that Andy Nathan to my right, my colleague and my dissertation advisor will have a question. And since he is my senior, I will ask him to ask the first question. I will ask a question and then we'll open it up to the audience.
And when we open it up to the audience, those of you who are on Zoom can put questions in the Q&A, but we won't have time for too many questions. My question is, if you want to get rid of the debate between unification and independence and have Liang'an Heping, how do you do that?
其实我觉得，我觉得两岸之间是这样的，多多少少还是要沟通的，有交流可以减少敌意，最起码减少误判跟擦枪走火。目前台湾跟大陆之间完全没有交通，所以每天那飞机这样飞来飞去，迟早会出事的。
So for one, I think that it's very important to resume dialogues, communication channels, and exchange with between the two sides. And I do think that that is the ways that we can reduce any type of misunderstanding, miscalculation, and misjudgment on both sides. And because then without any communication channels, without any exchanges, and all you have will be all the fire jets sort of going in and out of the airspace, it's not going to solve the problem.
So I'd like to ask a question about your views on managing not just cross-strait relations, but relations with the United States, since you're here in America for this trip. And I wanted to thank you again for honoring us by coming to Columbia University. So I just say the United States has United States experts and some officials have been relatively supportive of the current Taiwan government's approach to these problems, under the theory that the current DPP government has not done a lot of very provocative pro-independence activities that would potentially cause unnecessary tensions across the strait, but at the same time has taken Taiwan's defense needs seriously so as to create a strong deterrent against forced unification in the future by the mainland. So I wanted to ask you your views on both of those things to follow up on my colleague and advisor's question. How would you open up those contacts across the Taiwan Strait? What measures would you take to open up contacts across the Taiwan Strait? What measures would you avoid? And what is your view on Taiwan's defense needs, and what would your policies be about some of the new initiatives in strengthening and diversifying Taiwan's defense capabilities and the relationship with the United States?
就是有关台美的关系要怎么样去做运作。那美国现在政府在这方面其实对于民进党的一些作为其实蛮支持的，包括他们合作要去把国防军武，然后造成就是有一个嚇阻力，让这些这样子一个强制统一的状况不会在近期发生。那您可不可以提到一下，说您自己对于这样子怎么样去把两岸的这样子的交流来打开，是用透过什么样的方式去做？那你对于像这些国防军力的这些备战的是有什么样的看法
？Because we share the same value, so we are important to each other. 我们站在美国这边是没问题的，但是并不需要因为这样就去对中国恶言相向。所以我觉得是这样，台湾还是在民主同盟里面，这没问题的。但是台湾在厌恶中国的时候，还是可以采取一种愿意交流的这种态度的。当然是这样，要求两岸的和平还是要备战，因为不可能把国家的前途寄托在敌人的善意上面，因为这个太不可靠了。所以每次说要备战、能战才能够不畏战，所以台湾的国防还是要应付。所以不过这个就是我过去一直对民进党很不喜欢的地方，就是说他们要抗中，可是又没有真正做抗中的准备。其实战争是需要准备的，不管是防空演习的什么，因为我自己当过台北市长，我非常清楚，我们台湾的在对整个这种战争的准备是相当不够的。
So I do think that in terms of Taiwan-U.S. relationship, we share the same value, and that's why we're important to each other. And in terms of while we are strong allies, because of our shared values, and it doesn't mean that therefore we need to be hostile towards China. So that is a very fine balance that we need to strike. And I do think that in terms of the preparedness for war is definitely something that Taiwan needs to work on right now, because there's no reason to rely on the goodwill of your enemy. And in order for us to deter wars, we need to be prepared for war and be ready for war, and therefore we will not fear war. So I do think that the position of the DTP so far is trying to fight against or combat China, but at the same time without any military preparations. And with drills, with mobilization plans, I do think that as a mayor of Taipei, I can say that we are not prepared yet, military speaking, to really want to follow the directions or the sentiments of the DDP to really fight against China.
Hi, Dr. Chris. Thank you so much for coming here to Columbia today. You mentioned that you wanted to build a coalition government. I wonder how are you planning to balance the two major parties' forces and to rebuild the trust between the two parties?
第一点哦，因为我当过8年的台北市长，所以事实上所谓的联合政府在我任内就已经实现了。这很简单的，有几个原则。对这个 position 哦，你只是选说谁适合做，你并不要，如果你不要去管他的党籍，这样就好了。第二点哦，的确哦，在我的任内，我避开了很多意识形态的题目，所以比较不会吵架。你要知道哦，我当第一任市长的时候，我在议会是0席，第二任的时候是我的 party 哦，就是议员里面我只有1席，在63席里面0席跟1席，可是还是可以运作良好啊。这表示说，你知道，有时候在执政的时候，很多冲突是可以刻意被避免掉的。
So in terms of the coalition government that I mentioned on the grander scale, it's already been implemented while I was the mayor of Taipei City for 8 years. During my 10 years, that for me, a very key way of using people or to collaborate with people is to think about who are the best to do certain things without taking into consideration their party affiliations. So if you look at the actual composition of the city councils while I was the mayor of of Taipei City, among the 63 council seats, 0 seats was occupied by our party member. And later on, recently, we have 1 seat occupied by our party members. But at the same time, we can still run the municipal governance very, very smoothly without really paying close attention and to really put the party affiliation sort of in the back seats and really think about efficiencies and in terms of and the performance of what people do as they are serving the Taipei City. So that's my take on in terms of the coalition government.
I'll use Chinese first, and then I can translate that in English. 谢谢您。我觉得我听了您的演讲以后，我觉得这是一个很有趣的在政治方面的一个演讲。然后我想从您之前的 PPT 中的一页说，这是一场从文化为主开始的一个政治运动延伸开来。我想说，因为大陆和台湾有着非常深的文化连接，那么您认为台湾文化的作为，如果说我们有一个主体性，台湾文化的主体性的话，那么台湾文化的这个独特的这个主体性能表现在哪里呢？除了政治文化，除了我刚刚提到的和中华大陆文化的这一个文化连接上。So thanks a lot for the presentation. It's really interesting and fascinating. I just want to probably expand a little bit from the slides that you were presenting before when you campaigned for the mayor at the Taipei City, that you said it is a social movement started from the culture. I want to expand the cultural perspective a little bit more, because what I know, the mainland and the Taiwan has a very strong cultural bond. So besides the political culture and besides what you've mentioned about the democratic and all of the differences between the political system, between the mainland and the Taiwan, and thinking of the common linkages between the mainland China and the Taiwan culture, what is the most unique part of the Taiwan culture in your perspective?
那基本上台湾跟大陆有相同的历史、语言、宗教、文化 ，OK。但是台湾在过去400年当中，被荷兰人、西班牙人，然后郑成功，然后清朝，然后明朝，那最后再进入美国的势力范围。 所以很少有一个地方在短短的400年内被这么不同的文化统治过。而且还有一点在中国大陆所谓的改朝换代，那只是改变缴税的对象，因为整个文化是没有改变的。而在台湾所谓的改朝换代的，它连语言都不一样，因为荷兰人的、西班牙人的、明朝、清朝，而且还有一个很重要，后来的政权都仇视前面的政权，然后进行那个文化的铲除运动。所以台湾是这样的，台湾跟中国大陆有相同的语言、历史、语言、宗教、文化 ，OK， 真的没有问题。但是台湾有一个中国没有的，在这400年当中有一个它没有的巨大的、多次剧烈的变动，这是一个很大不同。
So I do agree that there are a lot of things that we share in common between Taiwan and mainland China: history, language, religion, culture. But at the same time, I think that there's something very, very unique of the experience of Taiwan's been either colonized or influenced by many different outside cultures, including the Dutch, the Spanish, the Zheng Gong, and the Qing Dynasty, Ming Dynasty, and all the way to the U.S. influence. And I do think that this is something that you don't really see in China. And every time when you have a new culture coming in, they always trying to get rid of the previous influence in the previous colonization sort of tactics of in terms of language, because the language are not even different, are even not even the same for all these different forces coming in. So I do think that yes, on some level we do share a lot in common, but there's something very unique about what happened in Taiwan, and as a result, that you do see how sort of from the convergence of that to the divergence of others.
So I have a question from our listeners on Zoom.
Yes, there's two related questions online. The first comes from Ozzy Yin from the Taiwan Central News Agency, who was curious if you had a comment on the PLA's current military drills over the last couple of days around Taiwan. And the second related one, feel free to answer one or both. Someone was curious what your thoughts are on the current mandatory conscription policy being changed possibly from 4 months to 1 year.
两个想看到你的想法，就是对解放军最近在
第一点中共是一定会步步紧逼的，这个是这样的这也是中国应该这样形容，我们也是说一开始是狗咬尾巴，后来发现是尾巴咬狗，最后发现尾巴掉了自己会动，这什么意思？你知道？中国大陆鼓动民主的那种民族主义，你知道？我发现到现在为止，你知道，中国政府对他鼓动的这些民族主义已经常常失去控制，反正这个民族主义在操纵中国政府。所以当美国有什么行动的时候，你知道，本来中国可以一笑置之的就 don't care， 可是它变成因为它国内的这种民族主义，它变成一定要 they should do something。所以这个也是，所以老实讲我倒觉得，所以有时候是这样的感觉上好像美国已经知道如何让中国一雷特他就，我当然不能说美国在玩中国了，at least he know the United States know how to imitate him, imitate China。所以有时候是这样的，中国应当要能够，既然中国是世界大国，你知道，他能够对自己有更大自信，不需要说一定要在做这种军事演习，这是他 get 姿态。我倒觉得他已经是世界大国，他何必这么没有自信？这第一点。第二点疫期从4个月变成1年，你知道，重点是它的内容如果因为我在台湾都也当过兵，你知道，如果当兵都在油漆跟割草，你知道， 从4个月变1年，我看还是没有用。所以重点不是时间，重点是 content 的。
So for the first questions, I do think that if I can use a metaphor, is that the dog's wagging the tails, and now turns to the tails wagging the dogs, and now the tails falls off and it's actually will wag itself. So in a way, it's also, I do think that because the rise of nationalism in mainland China, and they will react to things that, because they have to, because the nationalism is so rampant, so out of control to a point that it dictate the reaction the mainland Chinese government need to respond. So I do think that without insinuating that the U.S. government is playing with or irritating mainland Chinese government, I do think that they know exactly what buttons to push and to get certain reaction. So for me, I really think that if China is now the superpower or number 2 power in the world, and I do think that maybe they can be a little more self-confident about how to deal with these issues, and they can simply don't care, and then without feeling that that they're required and it is warranted to have these type of reactions for military drills, military exercises, and everything that you just mentioned that what's happening recently. And in terms of the compulsory military service, to extend that from 4 months to a year, I do think that more importantly, it's not duration of the training. It is about what exactly are you training for. If you are just prolonging the months from 4 to 12, but you're still painting houses and painting buildings and mowing lawns, I don't think that will make any difference in terms of the readiness and the preparations for war that we are aiming for.
Saying we are out of time. Do we have time for one more question from that side of the room, or we don't? You have to leave. Does anybody over here want to ask a question? Otherwise, we'll have to put one on.
哎，您好，柯主席，我是世界日报驻纽约的记者。我想，因为咱们谈到台湾的政治啊，因为中国永远会是一个不可能忽视掉的房间里的大象，所以我想了解一下，在您和民众党的论述里，中国到底是一个什么角色？是敌人，还是有可能争取一下的潜在的伙伴？就希望，不知道您能不能用最简单的一个定义去描述一下，谢谢。
Do you want to translate? So the question was that, of course, if you talk about having a new party in Taiwan, and the elephant in the room will be mainland China. And in terms of how you see internal affairs and external affairs and everything that you just talked about earlier, I do want you to share with us to the best of your ability, whether or not, how do you position mainland China? Do you see them as enemies? Do you see them as partners? And how do you really handle the and position mainland China in your political policies and values?
它是一个需要验护的邻居，应该这样讲哦。其实作为华人文化圈，你知道，我觉得中国有很强的 psychological trauma， 因为 at least in the past 200 years, China was always tortured by Western superpower, and someday suddenly China becomes a superpower。你知道在我们中文里面，媳妇熬成婆这叫什么？你有没有翻译？
So first that so the daughter-in-law now has paid her dues and now become the mother-in-law now. So that's the best I can do.
The daughter-in-law finally becomes the mother-in-law. 就是说他把他过去受到的欺负，你知道，加倍去欺负他的媳妇。
So the trauma and the cruelty received, now it's turn for China to pay it forward. Now they have become the mother-in-law.
Well, thank you very much. I'm afraid we're out of time. I want to thank you again for coming here. The China in the World program that I direct here at Columbia has had visitors from the KMT, visitors from the DPP, and now we're proud to say we've had visitors from the TPP. And we like to have all viewpoints voiced. And we really appreciate you coming to the United States, and we appreciate on your trip to the United States that you came to Columbia University. Thank you very much. Please join me in thanking